Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, May 7th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming in from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell, and joined today, as I am, well, every Wednesday now. I'm going to get you to sit in this chair, by the way, because you're...
Are you kidding me? I don't think so.
You're getting in enough trouble on that side?
Yes, I am.
Former Lowell Mayor, former Lowell City Councilor, also very important for some of the discussion we're going to have today, former head of schools at Lowell High School. Bill Samaras is with us. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Panis. Nice to be here. I mean,
you say that now. Let's see if you say it in about 40 minutes.
I do. I say it with a little apprehension at times, but we're here.
I was thinking to myself, I'm dragging this poor guy into the discussion. I should wait till Thursday or do a Trigger Him Tuesday at some point instead of bringing you into this. But last night's Lowell City Council meeting, there was a couple of things that happened there that got my blood boiling. And I think there's some folks in Lowell who need a quick dose of reality and a wake-up call to the reality of, how much you are dependent on the federal government for everything you have in this city.
Are we?
Well, you know as well as anybody, but I've got some numbers to show it. And before you go rattling any cages in an election year, you might want to be careful which cage you rattle. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about school funding, which, by the way, also comes down to federal funding because ARPA and ESSER are now gone. And suddenly, the city, which has been funding the schools, and the schools which have had a great time over the last 4 years.
But the past couple of years, it's been... money's been there.
Yeah, best party in the country, in Lowell City government and in the Lowell School Department. That all is coming to an end, and we're going to talk about it with somebody who's seen it on both sides. First, let me thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, certified appraiser, both states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, Ray Booten is the call you need to make. And it's easy to find them. Just look online, realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. We mentioned we're here in the WellPoint studios, and WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thanks to WellPoint, thanks to Ray, thanks again to Mr. Samaras. We've got some other sponsors we'll thank in a few minutes, but let's get right to it. I want to save the Trigger Him Tuesday part. I know today's Wednesday, but I'm going to save the Trigger Him Tuesday part for a few minutes. I want to start talking about the school budget. The city manager last night had released as part of the agenda packet kind of his numbers and what the city's doing to fund the schools, and there was a lot of jargon in there about cash and net school spending and obligations and total school spending and all that. Meanwhile, tonight the Lowell School Committee will meet, and they've got their own report from Superintendent Liam Skinner that points out the budget proposal, and it does highlight one interesting line that, well, last year the city gave us $14 million. This year, the city is proposing to give us $10 million. I was shocked in an election year that this didn't get as heated last night on the council floor as it may get tonight on the school committee floor. I want to get your thoughts on is this being overblown? Am I overblowing this, that there's a $4 million discrepancy here? Will they find a middle ground? Will they miraculously find $4 million somewhere? Or is the city either going to have to bend a lot, or the schools are going to have to lay off an awful lot of people? What's going to happen here?
Let's put it this way. I think we're at a point where resolution will happen, okay? And we're now back at the time when, well, for the past couple of years, with ESSA money, with the COVID money funds, so much was coming to the city. The city council had $78 million to spend almost any way they wanted. So it was spent on projects that many councilors have had in the back of their mind that they've wanted to see. So you've seen, accomplishments in that direction. The school department was able to hire certain people, create programs because of ESSA money and what have you. It was Just how do you
Not a care in the world,
how do you?
right?
That's probably the best description.
But people kept warning and saying, listen, that ESSER money ends at the end of fiscal year 2026. So too does the
common talk
ARPA
during
money.
that time to the school department was, don't just be hiring full-time people and expect the city to be able to pick it up at the end of when the funds are no longer available. And the same thing on the city side. The city was hiring people to do certain things, but they also had to be careful not to hire too many people because you would have to go to the tax base. And, we're limited in how far we can go, with the tax base. But the thing is, it's not, I don't like to use the word it's a game, but it is a game.
Oh, so, somebody wrote an article on InsideLowell.com that called it a shell game. And I happened to point out that we're now in the part of the shell game where the guy really starts moving the shells quickly so your eyes lose sight of the tax dollars. I mean, the ball.
Coming from them, I would not call it a shell game. It's a game of, in some cases, who blinks first, okay, in some cases. But it's a time to make a presentation of what you have. And what happens now is real talk, okay? What programs do you need? What type of funding do you have? The one thing the city manager stated very clearly, we're meeting net school spending. And the one thing with net school spending...
Exceeding, I believe he said, not just meeting,
yes,
right?
Thank you for that. But that he was going to exceed net school spending the necessary amount. But it doesn't have to be cash. That's what, everybody's looking...
This is the shell, right? Because you get some transportation money, school maintenance money. There's a ton of money going in for school building repairs.
Well, the thing is...
And all that kind of counts, right?
It kind of counts. It does count. I think the statement he made last night was, he said, I can't give you the information now. He shouldn't be. But we've normally been putting $250,000 in for maintenance at the high school and repair of the air conditioners and what have you. With 28 schools, it wasn't meeting the cost. Today's costs, no. And he said, perhaps $1 million has been put there. And $1 million, it's gone up $750,000. And even that's not enough. But the thing is, the common demand that's been made to all city councilors as the past 10 years has been, what are you doing to ensure that our buildings are safe and that there's heat in the building, there's air conditioning in the buildings are secure. And there's a demand for that. And the costs, so the city manager said, look, we can only do so much, but educationally, it's better off for us meeting the needs of the school system by going in this direction. So the city manager has chosen a direction, and the superintendent has only one direction, the hiring of personnel. The school department, remember one thing, the school department's all personnel.
80% of any budget, especially government, is payroll, between the salaries and then the insurance and long-term retirement and that stuff. So you said we're now going to find out who's going to blink first.
Right.
Before I ask you who will or who should blink first, so the superintendent, Liam Skinner,
right,
and the city manager, Tom Golden, appear to have a really good relationship. I've watched them interact. I hear the way they talk about each other. Everything seems to be hunky-dory. And neither one of them, when I reached out to them for comment, neither one of them said a word. They said, look at what I sent my respective community,
let's put it this way,
and let that speak for itself.
It's clear that it's been a lot different than what I've seen in the past.
Okay. So will that relationship be the same once July 1st comes around? Is everything still going to be hunky-dory?
It has to be. I mean, because I think both realize they're running, what aspect, the city manager is running the city as a whole. The superintendent has to meet the needs of the students and the teachers. They both know they need each other. So I see them working well together. But the issue is, what do certain members of the school committee, certain members of the city council may see it differently. So the thing is, it's not just the superintendent and the city manager, but it's members. It could be certain members of the city council, certain members of the school committee saying, "Whoa!"
And it's an election year, right?
And it's does that have make a difference?
So every school committee member I've spoken to, and I haven't spoken to all of them, but they're all saying pretty much the same thing. The city needs to. This is about education. This is about the kids. We need to do our thing.
Correct.
I thought we'd get more about what the city councilors were going to say, because they should be looking out, yes, for the schools, but also for the overall taxpayer. This is where it gets interesting. I'm getting different information. I'm being told that since 2019, the schools have hired more than 300 employees and absolutely exploded the budget. Now, a lot of that could be ESSER, as we talked about, but that's a lot. There are people on the school side who are telling me there's a lot of lies coming out there, and that information is nowhere near correct. You were mayor for part of this.
Yes.
You were a counselor for
Yes.
part of it. How many jobs did the schools hire?
Well, the former superintendent, money came in, and he had the right to create positions, and he created quite a few positions. I think he went.
It's a little bit of an understatement.
I think he went in the direction of too much into administration. Many school committee members, when they look at it, they're looking at, how many what's the teacher ratio, and that's in a school. I mean, you have your principal, your vice principal, and you have your teachers. That's what people look at as the strength of the school. Today, in today's world, because of state requirements, federal requirements, you hire people to handle those different type of things. But I think they've gone a little overboard in some of that area. When hiring 300 people, the thing is, they might have let go certain positions, hired. I mean, that's not an accurate count. The one thing that we should have, and one thing certain city councils have been asking for, and I think what the city manager is trying to do, is create a situation where when someone asks how many positions were hired, new positions were hired this year, that it's not a world secret, that it's not something that has to be researched. You press a button, out comes, we hired 27 people, or whatever it is.
So the data is out there nationwide. I'm sure it's out there citywide. And I want to talk about that because you mentioned the superintendent did a lot of administrative hiring. Joel Boyd, Liam Skinner's predecessor. I remember talking to Joel Boyd on the radio about that. Are you hiring, because everybody was a chief. They were a chief this, they were a chief that. Are you hiring too many chiefs and not enough Indians or not enough Native Americans?
And he was doing something different. I mean, he was, the administrative positions, they have titles and they have requirements for assistant superintendent, what have you. But he took away the titles of assistant superintendent and was creating positions called chiefs or something, so he could bring them in without the certifications and what have you. So this created some issues.
His rationale for that, to me, was, well, listen, I'm trying to implement certain changes that the schools needed. You were not fond of the superintendent before him. Right. And so he was, but before I can implement these changes and my policies, I need to have the proper management in place. I'm paraphrasing him, but I'm like, okay, maybe plausible. But I did some Google searching, and you folks are free to do it on your own, but if you Google search, what has been the increase in hirings in school? Because we're always told it's about the kids. It's always about the kids. Don't touch the classroom. It's about the kid. You got to protect the kids. So between 2000 and 2019, the number of district administrators in U.S. public schools increased by 87.6%. while teacher numbers grew by only 8.7%. Now, I don't know what Lowell's ratio is, But I'm going to guess it ain't all that much different from what the rest of the country was doing. That has been the trend in education. Let me repeat that for you folks. 87.6% increase in the number of school administrators. 8.7% increase in the number of teachers from 2000 to 2019 in Lowell, in United States public schools. Lowell may or may not be different. Now, here's where this gets interesting. I haven't looked at the school budget. I am not a budget expert, but I'm told that if you look at the proposals for dealing with this city's $4 million less in cash contributions, that they're going right to the classroom to make the cuts. Paraprofessionals, maybe teachers or whatever. So you have an explosion over here and a little increase.
I'll tell
here.
you.
Why are you cutting here when this is more important? Cut up here.
I'll tell you, if they were to go in that direction, it would be something that would cause a lot of problems. There would be strong reaction to that at this particular point. Now, I'll just go back to Joel. I was mayor that hired him, but had I stayed mayor for the next year with him as he came into the system, it would have been different. We talked about it because I would have worked with him and the school committee to see that the money was spent properly and the money was sent with purpose, and purpose was stated so clearly that everyone would understand. But the thing is, the school department all of a sudden went off on its own, doing its thing, and it's hiring. So that's one problem. When you're talking about the administrative costs, government has come in. The state requires, we need this kind of report. We need this kind of report. So a superintendent saying, I don't have the time to do that. I'll hire Mr. Panis because he's an expert on communications reports. So you're doing communications. I'll hire Mr. Samaras because he's an expert on school sites. So we'll do a school site report. And it just gets out of hand. And there's a lot of people at central office.
But now you see the political battle brewing, right? Because the schools are going to point out, oh, look at all the cuts that are going to happen in the classroom. Right. If I'm on the city side, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I'm not telling you to cut the classroom.
No.
But if you added, what, $10, $11 million, and most of it went towards admins, you might want, and I'm not advocating for anybody to lose their job. In a perfect world, nobody would lose their job. But look, we're talking about taxpayer dollars, and the party's over. That party's over, folks. It's now time to tighten those shoestrings and belts a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you, the city council right now had a vote last night to ask the school committee to vote on putting the control of the buildings under the city, okay, for the air conditioning systems and the custodians, everybody.
The facilities department.
That's the direction they should be going in. Okay, I think the finance should be under one department. No finance department for the school department, no separate finance department for the city.
But doesn't DESE require this? Doesn't the state require you keep those two things completely separate?
Not really.
No.
You could.
There's ways around it.
Of course, there is. There's ways around everything. But what I'm trying to say is, the school department in the city has to look at cost-cutting measures. You just can't have the city school department growing on its own and the city growing on its own. At some point, they're going to have to come together. So, I mean, and the thing is, I don't see this as blowing up. I see this as a problem. They're making some cuts. I don't know how the school committee is going to react. They may not react at all. But the thing is, if they cut a number of teachers' positions, I think they will get a strong reaction.
I think there should be, but I understand why the school committee members are doing it. They're going to fight as hard as they can, and they're going to try to frame it as sympathetically as possible. But I'll still say it to this day. The wisest Lowell politician I ever met was fellow Greek, Steve 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐿. And he said to me, the private sector can no longer afford the public sector. He said it in 2010.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed. In fact, it's even gotten worse. But I'm looking at what's happening in Washington, D.C., and I'm looking at the now gone ARPA and ESSER money, and I'm thinking, somebody better start paying attention to his words, because the taxpayers are starting to revolt a little bit.
You know, I think as I'm talking to you, you know, sometimes I may start going towards gobbledygook talk, because that's how we've dealt with the issues in the past. And when you talk about what Steve 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐿 said to you, that's straight talk. So the thing is, for me, straight talk is right now is I don't see any major harm coming. But if nothing is done at this point, I see it coming on the horizon, major problems, unless the city and the school department start really working together.
And by the way, it's not just Lowell. You're seeing it in Drake. You're seeing it in surrounding communities. You're seeing it all over the states. Again, all this largesse post-COVID, the chickens are now coming home to roost. But, you know, the city's got it on their side, too. Yeah. We remember they funded a lot of, as they grew the MIS department in this era of cybersecurity, a lot of that was funded through ARPA initially. I'm very curious to see what the manager has done in this budget to say, okay, well, are we letting some of them go? Is it no longer as much of a priority? Or is he finding the money from somewhere else? And if so, where?
Yeah, that was one department. But the thing is, when I first went onto the city council, the biggest issue was the council had been cutting taxes for years. And the police department was very much understaffed. The fire department was very much understaffed. And other safety positions within the city were understaffed. And the one thing we started to do was move in that direction. I think you have a city manager that understands those points and is trying to, you know, satisfy the needs of the city council, because the council, you know, I'm a councilor, so I want to say to my constituents, look what I did for you. But the issue is, in the long run, what they want you to do for them is keep their taxes lower.
Keep the taxes as low as possible.
Make sure their ashes and waste are picked up. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's a fire truck available if there's a problem.
So it'll be a fascinating budget season. Good thing we'll be talking about it every Wednesday going forward, right to June 30th.
I think tonight will be interesting.
All right. We'll watch that school committee tonight. We're chatting with former Lowell Mayor, former City Councilor Bill Samaras. He joins us every Wednesday here on the Daily Pulse. We'll continue our discussion, and this is where I'm really going to drag him in. This is where his friends and family may tell him, we're finding something else for you to do on Wednesday mornings. But I want to first thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, who may also regret this next segment coming up. But thank you to Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, Ray Booten is your man. RealestateRayBooten.com is the web address. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell, Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's a century of service to our community. And the stuff they do behind the scenes, non-business related, even more impressive. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Next game, Thursday, May 29th. Yesterday, by the way, we did a podcast, Inside the Pirates podcast. You can check it out on InsideLowell.com or our YouTube channel with the new head coach, Tom Manas. Guy's a winner. Good hire by the Pirates. All right, Bill Samaras is back here. So there was a discussion that nobody really expected last night. There was an agenda item, the resignation of Mona Tyree from the DEI Commission, the city's DEI Commission. And she was there to she wanted to explain why she stepped down from that commission. Said, we haven't done anything. we formed this commission, and I'm deeply disappointed that we haven't done anything. We're not doing anything. We haven't had any meetings. And then naturally, election year, the councilors jumped in with their disappointment, their cascade of critique. You know, we dropped the ball here. The administration dropped the ball. Maybe the council dropped the ball. Everybody dropped the ball with DEI. And then while saying, I dropped the ball, I'll take the blame for it, Tom Golden did, he tried to explain, well, maybe the ball wasn't necessarily dropped. Maybe we just put it down because it's in the best interest of the city of Lowell and its taxpayers to put that ball down for a little bit and not play with it while mom and dad are looking.
The issue is the city manager, I think they did allude to that many programs took place in the city to talk about equity issues. All right.
One in particular that we're going to talk about before we're done. They trained all of City Hall, all the managers and everybody else on DEI issues.
Yeah, but I mean, but the city, I mean, has worked to try to, when DEI was, in a sense, mandated. Okay. Now there's a different mandate out there. What the city manager did last night was what any good city manager should do. And what he said was, if you listen to him simply, the government has changed in Washington. There is a different opinion as to how where funding is going to go and what programs we should have.
There's a new sheriff in town is how they say things back in the old days, right?
Basically, that's it. And what he's saying, for the best interest of the city, I have to ascertain what direction we should be taking at this particular point. And that was a smart thing. There may be people who, you know, DEI forever or this program forever. Wait a minute. The city manager has to do his job to ensure federal money keeps coming into this city.
And that's
what he did. That's what he did.
He mentioned it last night, but this is something I've been talking about since January. I've been telling people, and look, Mona Tyrese is a phenomenal person. I've known her. She's been part of our election night coverage. Just a phenomenal person. And the counselors who spoke, good people. They want the best for the city, but they're letting their emotion get the best of them, because, as I've been telling people, if you want to harbor illegals, go ahead. Don't let them out the back of a courthouse while an ICE agent is sitting there, or you're going to go to jail. If you're a government official, you do it at your own risk. But if you're a private citizen, do whatever you want, right? You want to practice DEI in your public thing, do it. You want to do it in government, find a way to do it quietly, because you don't want to call attention to it because of what you said, of what the manager said. There is an awful lot of federal money that comes into the city of Lowell. How much, you might ask? So this morning I reached out to the CFO, Connor.
I know you would.
Chief Financial, and I said, Connor, how much money does the city of Lowell get in its budget from the federal government, or passed through from the federal government to the state and then to the city of Lowell?
Yeah.
He said, I can't give you an exact figure off the top of my head. It's sizable. He sent me the audit report. So the city of Lowell every year has to compile an audit report of how they spent their federal dollars. Okay? And wrong one here. Hold on. Well, let's shut this screen down there. I was showing it to Bill Samaras before the show. But this is the City of Lowell reports on federal award programs for the year ended June 30, 2023. Powers and Sullivan, an independent accounting firm, does it to make sure that the numbers are correct. So this is the latest data that apparently is available. I didn't get the 2024 data from Connor Baldwin. As you can see, schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And if you look down there, there's $12 million just in child nutrition. Okay? That's a lot of money that if you start doing DEI programs and somebody in Washington, D.C. pays attention to it and says, we're not funding that anymore, do you want to risk that $12 million? But to answer the question of overall what is coming in, well, There's the answer to your question. From the Department of Health and Human Services, $67 million. I'm going to add $15,000 there. But to be exact, $66,985,026. $67 million comes from the federal government
It's a lot
to
of
the
money.
city of Lowell in some way, shape, or form. It's about 11% of the city budget. If you take a $600 million budget and do the math, that's 10-11% of your city budget.
Yeah.
Why would you do anything to risk that? You don't have to like Donald Trump. You know I do, but you don't have to, right? A lot of people don't.
No,
but he's the one controlling the purse strings. Do you want to go to court and fight him over funding when you could just zip it
No,
and not get in trouble?
the issue here is he's the president of the United States right now. For the 4 years he was elected. All right. Now the thing is, the city manager did not talk about choosing the Republicans over the Democrats or Democrats over the Republicans. He said, I have to navigate the waters in Washington to see the direction and the instructions that will come into this city on what programs I can have and I can expend the money and how I can keep the money that we have. And that's what the city manager is doing. And the issue, equity issues, I think all good people are going to fight for equity. You know, DEI is a separate...
Or equality. I like the other E word. I like equality because equity has you discriminating against somebody to achieve an outcome. Whoever that person is, you're discriminating against.
Yeah, I mean,
equality is a better term.
You can have it, but when I use the term equity is quality. But the thing is, equity is trying to understand who we are, who our neighbors are, and how we can live best with each other. But the issue is, and I'll tell you, a poor job has been done by as politically. I mean, what you have in Washington now is the Democrats and Republicans. I mean, there are more people who are against each other because of how they voted or what have you. We can't keep existing this way. So let's not get into that muck and mire. But the issue is, you're right, and the city manager was right. All he said simply was, I'm navigating the waters to ensure that the city of Lowell is properly funded.
And he did express a little bit, the lefty side of Tom Golden came out, the side I don't like, when he said, what they're doing is awful, blah, blah, blah. I'm paraphrasing him. He said it's awful, but I still have to protect this money. Because he knows that $67 million figure. He didn't give it last night.
Yeah.
And we should point out that 2023, there was a lot of ARPA money in there.
Yeah.
So the number might not really be 67. Maybe it's 55. Maybe it's 50. Whatever. It's sizable.
It's the food program. It's one of the best examples. It's the food programs for children in schools.
Yeah. So why would you call attention? Why would the city council even have this discussion last night? I get why Mona Tyree, she may not have understood, but once she's said her piece, the council should have known enough to not try to call attention to it and not try to force the manager to do something about it, because those three letters, DEI, and we can throw the B in there too, belonging, they're very highly charged right now in Washington, D.C. And the guy who controls the purse strings has shown that he's not shy about using executive orders to cut off your funding. Now, why am I so... People say, well, who's against diversity? Who's against equity? Who's against inclusion? Well, I'm against equity. I'm for equality, but I love diversity. I love inclusion. Hell, I was once considered diverse. Our people were considered diverse, right? We needed to get
absolutely.
At some point, and we did, but
we weren't.
This DEI movement, folks. Do you want me to show you what the DEI movement is about? You know what? I think I will. We'll put this screen away, but just etch that number in there, $66,985,000. But this is a photo. We talked about the DEI training that all City Hall management, I believe all City Hall employees had to do. The little brown blob there, I've blacked out the face or tried to blur the face of the person who was teaching this. But it was a slideshow that was being presented to City of Lowell employees to show them, well, I don't know, how terrible we are as a people, as a country, or whatever. The title, I circled the title for you: Systemic Racism Among Police May Put More Black Lives in Danger. So again, this was that whole BLM movement, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the aftermath of George Floyd, we all wanted to look, you know, what is happening. A truly horrific case. I get it. But the teaching here is that police officers are systemically racist, and then they're putting black lives at danger. But look at where the arrow is pointing. This is the part that gets my goat. And I'll read it for you. It's a little blurry, but it says CGTN is funded in whole or in part by the Chinese government. So as part of the DEI training to City of Lowell employees, and I would imagine a lot of other people around the country, to be told, I'm going to interpret as, you should hate your police officers. We don't need police officers because they're systemically racist. That's the message that's going out there. But that slide, that data, that report, that information is funded in part or in whole by CGTN, the Chinese government. So I did a little Google search. What is CGTN? Let me read it for you, in case you don't understand how much propaganda is in that DEI movement and who exactly is funding it. CGTN, or China Global Television Network, CGTN, China Global Television Network, is an international media organization and the international division of China Central Television, CCTV. It is a state-owned media entity under the control of the Central Propaganda Department of the Chinese Communist Party. Got that? Central Propaganda Department of the Chinese Government Party. CGTN's programming includes its English language channel, CGTN America, is aimed at promoting the Chinese government's narratives and promoting understanding between China and the world. So the people teaching DEI to the City of Lowell employees are using acknowledged Chinese government-funded propaganda. What, there were no ABC News reports, no CNN reports from George Floyd, from what was going on that entire summer of 2020? We had to use Chinese government propaganda to what? To divide Americans, to get us to hate each other?
The issue that I've been bothered by some of these...
Sorry about that.
No, but the issue I've been bothered by is the divisiveness that a lot of this has created. It has created a lot of divisiveness. Before I left the high school, I have to say I was proud of the Lowell Police Department because I had 6 officers assigned in various levels to the high school. And I think several were of color, and I think 3 were majority and 3 were minority, put it that way. But the thing is, they did more for the minority population at the high school than anybody. They helped me in some very serious issues to bring people and students together. I'll tell you. And the thing is, what this Floyd situation, it created such hatred. The Floyd situation was a very bad situation.
Disgusting. That police officer should rot in jail.
That was a bad, I mean, bad all the way around. But the thing is, what happened, the extremists came out and created a lot of harm. I mean, there are people who just don't want to be policemen anymore. They don't see a future in it. It's not right.
The extremists came out, but so did the opportunists. And what they've done is they've kind of brainwashed some good people who actually love their country and want to make their country a better place into believing that their country is absolutely terrible. And again, we've got issues in America, right? We're not perfect. No land is. But United States, China, which funded this, has slaves.
Yeah.
Google search it, folks. The Uyghurs are slaves in China. They have Muslim slaves in China. There are countries where there are genocides happening, and there is slavery in Nigeria and all these other places in the world. We're not perfect as Americans, but we're not awful. And if we're gonna fight with each other, Don't let the Chinese come in here. Don't let the Chinese propaganda, the Central Propaganda Department of the Chinese Communist Party come in here and divide us.
It's almost like
what are we doing?
It's almost like we've lost sense of who we are. Because the thing is, I was raised into, to be an American, a Greek American. I was proud to be Greek. I was proud to be an American. I was proud to be able to put it all together, and I could coexist with everybody. Growing up, as you said, there were issues, and I saw some, and there were serious issues that had to be corrected, and there are issues that have to be corrected today. But this is one country that looks forward to correcting those issues like no other country. Yet the extremists are just creating hate, and it's got to stop.
They're dividing us, and they're putting good people like the city council last night, the city manager, and Mona Tyree in a position where they've now got to tiptoe around a thing because, look...
you should be able to discuss an issue and say, okay, we're good in this area here. We've done well here. We've done a poor job in this area. There's no discussion. There's no discussion. My way or the highway. Don't like it.
Take away those 3 letters. Whatever you're going to call that commission, that committee of citizens, give it a different name. Whatever you're going to title those jobs that are in the school department, that are in the city, the diversity or the DEI officers or whatever.
I'm afraid we're
give them a new title.
No,
don't draw attention to yourself because there's a guy in Washington, D.C. who has people looking for those job titles, trying to find a connection to federal dollars and cut out those federal dollars. I think he's justified based on this slide right here, because if we're going to use federal dollars to get people to hate America, hate Americans, and especially hate the men and women who put their lives on the line, the city of Lowell police is running around putting fallen heroes plaques and signs all over the city now. They've already done 2. We've got stories on them on InsideLowell.com. These folks, are there some bad apples? Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Just like there are in the schools, just like there are in the media, just like there are everywhere. But to try to teach that your police department is systemically racist, like, that's not flying with me.
Does racism exist? Yes, it does. And the thing is, we have to be able to work together. And I'm tired of the labels, because the labels have stated, you're into that label, you stay over here, this label will stay over here. We can't come together. We need to come together. The strength of this country has been our ability to talk with each other and resolve the issue.
To unite.
To unite.
The United States of America.
And we have to.
Right. Kudos to Manager Golden for taking the hit last night, but for also trying to spell out why that DEI commission may not have met.
But
there's a reason to it, and it has nothing to do with racism.
No, he did his job last night. That was clear.
And he didn't give the numbers last night, but we just did. There's 67 million reasons to maybe not have that meeting of that committee, maybe rename it something else, and go about doing your work quietly. Don't call attention to it until January of 2029, if that.
No, the work can be done. There's no, I disagree in the sense of do good work. No one's going to criticize good work.
Bring people together. Work for equality. Yeah. Go to those underserved populations. We know where they are. But the schools know. Look at your Hispanic test scores and results. You want to start? Go right there. Yeah. Start helping there. Make a difference there. But we don't have to divide everybody to do that. We can be helpful. No. We're better than that, Lowell.
And there are a lot of people in Lowell, of all. I was fortunate, what did I like about being at the high school? So many people were willing to help us, and so many families came, whether, I had a meeting with black families or Hispanic families, what have you. They all wanted the same thing for their children, a good education, and they wanted them to be safe.
We want our kids, our families to be safe, to have a better life than we did.
Yeah.
That's regardless of whether you're a European immigrant, or an African immigrant, or an Asian immigrant.
The American
we all
dream.
want the same thing.
The American dream.
And this country, more so than any country, allows that to happen and helps support it. Let's not be divisive, but also, if we want to be divisive, let's not be stupid. Let's not risk $67 million just to be divisive. All right, you glad you came in today? Yeah. When you start agreeing with me on certain things, you know that that's not good for you, right? I'm going to make sure you never run for office.
I got a headache now.
I'm going to make sure you never run for office again. Bill Samaras, as always, I appreciate you coming in, especially for your insight on the school and city budget.
It's going to be interesting to see it tonight. But
I was surprised it didn't blow up a little bit more last night.
it won't.
You're saying it won't?
I don't see it happening.
Okay. Will you see $4 million in cuts, or will you see money?
No, you won't. You will not see $4 million in cuts.
Will I see two?
Probably.
All right.
And they
The
can,
middle ground.
they can do it.
They can do it.
Yeah.
Just don't go into the classroom to do it. Maybe perhaps
Wrong direction.
Perhaps take out a couple of chiefs and let the Indians keep doing their work in the classroom.
You have to.
All right. You're hearing it from a former chief himself, the headmaster, the head of schools for Lowell High School, Bill Samaras. As always, thank you. Next week, we'll have State Rep Tara Hahn joining us to talk about God's backyard. I want to give him
That should be interesting.
Explain why he's supporting that legislation, and more importantly, what is the goal? What do they hope to accomplish, and how would it affect not just his district, but the city of Lowell as a whole, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Okay.
So, all right. I'll see you next Wednesday. I'll try to get you into a little less trouble next Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Pulse, the Thursday edition of the Daily Pulse. I don't know yet what I have planned for you. I probably should have planned today's material for tomorrow just to not get poor Bill Samaras in trouble, but yeah. What fun is there in that? Friday, we'll have the Pod Squad, Batch and the Hyphen, Mike Batchagalupo, Michaela Hondas-McCarthy joining us. Each and every day, the Daily Pulse drops at noon here on Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell, as we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, everybody stay safe. Enjoy. It's actually a beautiful spring day, and I'll catch you on the other side.